Hey guys, it's your girl Jackie here again. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, which is super exciting because we're going to watch expensive fails that is done over in the construction site. So if you want to find out, just find out guys. Stick around. Anyways, let's get straight to the video.
Top 5 most stressful careers in the world. And I bet you didn't include architect in there. For most, it wouldn't make it into the top 10, maybe not even into the top 100. But
I think architect is very important in today's world as well, because architects are in charge of the designing and also making it safe for us to work and also conducive for us to do our daily jobs.
not only are architects responsible for spending enormous amounts of other people's money, their simple mistakes have the potential to result in the loss of hundreds or even thousands of lives. You might think of this as a historic pre-planning regulation issue, like the Fidenae amphitheatre built by Attilius in 27 AD. He chose wood over stone, and when 50,000 people flocked to watch a gladiator fight, the seating collapsed and 20,000 people fell to their deaths. And it's true, to a certain extent, red tape does help reduce the number of tragedies like this. And construction nightmares are more often toilets that prevent the doors from closing, ATMs that are too high to reach, and blunders like the California Navy base, which was accidentally built in the shape of a swastika. And yes, they're now spending $600,000 disguising that.
Wow.
Unfortunately, regulations are not perfect, and some mistakes slip through the cracks. Combine that with criminally negligent cost-cutting, experimental designs, and a guy who seems intent on building a death ray, and you've got the perfect recipe for some eye-wateringly expensive construction disasters.
The Walkie-Talkie
20th
Tower.
Benchurch Street, London, also known as
Number
the
one.
Walkie-Talkie Tower due to its top-heavy shape, was completed in 2014 at a cost of over £200 million. For that money, you'd expect great functionality, and the walkie-talkie
It's literally shaped like a walkie-talkie in steroids.
delivers. Not only does it boast city centre offices and a public access sky garden, but it also serves as a death ray that can cook an egg and melt a car. How handy! For around 2 hours on a sunny day, the building's concave glass face concentrates the sun's rays on the ground below. In addition to dazzling passers-by, it generates temperatures of up to 110 degrees Celsius, which is over boiling point, my American friends.
Wow.
This is hot enough to actually melt a Jaguar XJ, as discovered by the unlucky owner of a Jaguar XJ who parked it across the road. After the incident, journalists flocked to the street to report the situation, and one managed to cook an egg in a frying pan using only the light from the building. Hard-hitting journalism right there, but also that guy's a genius. A local barber claims a reflected beam of light started a small fire and burnt a hole through his doormat. He complained that any boost to his business generated by the tower would be negated if his front door was on fire. As if accidental scorchings weren't bad enough, the fry scraper also created a wind tunnel by generating strong downdrafts.
I want to see the inside of this. This is very interesting to see. Vdara Death
in 2009
Ray.
and almost immediately started singeing guests in the pool area below. Just as with the walkie-talkie, the curved design concentrated the sun's rays and cooked the swimmers like ants with a magnifying glass. One guest, Bill Pintus, described how he'd been sunbathing when he started to feel something like a chemical burn. When he tried to flee, he found his flip-flops were too hot to wear, his plastic bag had melted, and a patch of hair had been scorched. He later claimed, "I was effectively being cooked. I started running as fast as I could without looking like a lunatic." When he reported it to staff, they laughed and said, "We know. We call it the death ray."
Okay, Tacoma Narrow Bridge.
Famed as one of the most spectacular bridge collapses of all time, the 1940 Tacoma Narrows Bridge still holds a place as one of the most expensive construction mistakes.
I thought it was the London Bridge.
Losses at the time
I thought
were
this
around
is the
$6
London
million,
Bridge.
which in today's money equates to around $120 million. It was designed by Leon Meisef, a New York-based bridge designer who'd been trying to cut costs. Although a very sturdy and expensive truss structure had been recommended for this challenging location, Meisef believed he could apply his groundbreaking elastic distribution theory and construct a much cheaper option. He proposed that stiffening the main cables could absorb wind pressure and allow him to use low-cost 8-foot deep plate girders as opposed to high-value 25-foot trusses. Both the budget and sleek design were a hit with officials, and construction began in 1938. The project should have been halted as soon as the workers who'd completed the deck noticed its movements and nicknamed it Galloping Gertie. However, they pressed on, adding control methods like tie-down cables, cable stays, and hydraulic buffers, and in 1940 it was open to the public. All was fine on calm days, but as soon as the wind picked up, well, so did the bridge. On the 7th of November 1940, just 4 months after completion, the bridge was hit by a sustained 42-mile-per-hour winds, and it began to oscillate. This movement was dramatic but survivable until the suspension cables started to snap.
Wow! Speaking of Final Destination, like it's like Final Destination, guys. like the wind cables cutting, like it's like your last day already. Everybody's screaming and dying in front of your eyes.
There was nothing to dampen the movement, and the bridge started twisting
Oh
wildly.
my God.
The deck tore apart, and a large portion fell into the water. The dramatic collapse was brilliantly described by Leonard Coatsworth, the last person to drive on the bridge. Around me, I could hear concrete cracking. I started back to the car to get the dog, but was thrown before I could reach it. The car itself began to slide from side to side on the roadway. I decided the bridge was breaking up, and my only hope was to get back to shore. On hands and knees, most of the time, I crawled 500 or more yards to the towers. My breath was coming in gasps. My knees were raw and bleeding. My hands bruised and swollen from gripping the concrete curb. While he survived, sadly his cocker spaniel, Tubby, who refused to get out of the car, did not. Coatsworth received $450 in compensation for his car and $364.40 for Tubby. Residents has been widely blamed for the bridge's collapse, but the truth is actually slightly more complicated.
What?
The actual culprit was an aerodynamic phenomenon known as flutter, a movement generated by aerodynamic forces and a structure's elasticity and inertia. The expensive trusses of the original
This is very important.
design would have allowed the air to pass through the bridge. Moisef's plate girders were sealed in solid blocks and forced the air above and below the bridge, creating vortices and ultimately the fatal flutter effect. While an incredibly costly mistake, the bridge construction and Tubby's death were not for nothing. Many lessons were learned, and the Tacoma Narrows case is still used today as an example of how not to build a bridge. Everyone's heard of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, a gravity-defying structure that attracts 15 million visitors a year. It's one that engineers have worked for decades to stabilize without completely straightening and ruining the magic. Well, there's another tower that's leaning, except it costs $350 million to build, contains 419 residential units, and is located in a heavily populated part of downtown San Francisco. People are less excited about this building's lean. It's called the Millennium Tower, and it opened in 2009. It's 58 stories high, listed as 60 as they skipped the 13th and 44th floors due to superstitions. This amounts to 197 meters, the fourth tallest building in San Francisco. If it collapsed, it would be fatal for the thousands inside and could cause a domino effect on the surrounding buildings. So, no one is particularly impressed that the northwest side has sunk 18 inches, creating a 26-inch tilt at the top of the tower. The problem was first noticed by developers in 2015, but they didn't inform the public or residents until 2016. By then, cracks were clearly visible in the basement and pavement surrounding the tower, and residents had begun hearing creaking and popping noises. One even reported that their built-to-withstand a hurricane glass window had smashed. The issue is most likely a result of insufficient piles that were not drilled down to the bedrock, but instead driven into packed sand. Developers dispute this and claim construction of the...
That's what happens, like if they won't share the information, like what's really going on, and vacate all the people, like it's going to kill a lot of people. And then one reason they don't is because of money. They want some money right there, profit.
Regardless, it is sinking, and residents have lost nearly the full value of their million-dollar condos. Costs are spiraling due to compensation, lawsuits, and a huge project underpin the tower. The fix was agreed in October 2020, and it's estimated to cost between $100 and $500 million. Unfortunately, residents still have a while to wait until their homes are horizontal again. Everyone involved understood that the underpinning wouldn't halt the leaning until the new piles were both driven into the bedrock and attached to the foundation. What they weren't expecting, however...
Can they do that? Guys, I have searched the Millennium Tower, and then this guy is this the one he's trying to tell you guys? I'm gonna show it right here. So this is what this guy is telling. You remember this tower where the poles or the support is until the old clay, and then which they didn't like stick the support, or they didn't extend the support up until the bedrock. This is what he's telling, guys. So now I think the support is extended until the bedrock, which is another 52 new perimeter piles. So I hope that this will stay.
Fix would make things worse. Since work began, soil loss through digging and vibrations from the machinery has caused the tilt to increase by 10 inches, the fastest rate yet, and as of March 2022, the building even began to slide horizontally. So, That's a fun new issue they have to deal with. Fortunately, both the developers and engineers working on the tower insist that although the tilt is undeniable, it poses no safety risk. The chief engineer, Ronald Hamburger, gave testimony in one of the lawsuits stating that new analysis says the building could tilt by over 6.5 feet and still withstand an earthquake in the seismically active region. He went on to say that had they done nothing, he believed the building would naturally settle at a maximum tilt of 40 inches. So perhaps the hundreds of millions of dollars that have led to this being one of the most costly construction mistakes ever made have all been wasted. Or perhaps he's wrong. I mean, it's probably not worth the risk.
And then you can see people already like dying. Like when there's an earthquake, it's gonna like die. It is so scary to live in a high-rise building, especially when you know the deep crack secrets about it. That it's unsettling to even sleep there.